Hey, you guys, this is Lisa Nicole Alexander with a deeper look into domestic violence. And we're honored to have guest Maria Feliciano here. Hello, Maria.
Hi.
How are you? We're so glad you're here.
Good.
Maria, beautiful woman that you see on the screen. She has four
Mhm.
children and five amazing grandchildren. And she is a survivor of domestic violence. So we're thankful to have her on to share her story. And so come on in here, grab a friend, listen while you're driving. But this story definitely needs to be heard. So Maria, please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your situation and yourself and talk to us.
Yes. Okay. Well, and thank you for having me in the show.
Okay.
And basically, everything started when I was 14 years old. I left my home and I met this man, which basically all started, left, got pregnant.
Okay.
And once I got pregnant and I moved in with him, his family, all the, violence started. It
Okay.
all started with a punch and started with a cut. And it was all abuse all throughout my pregnancy,
Wow.
even almost to give birth, everything. And when I did, I lost the child.
Mm.
Um,
I'm
it
so
was one
sorry.
of the hardest. It's okay. It was one of the hardest thing in my life. I think if I look about everything in my life, that was like one of the hardest because it
Wow.
was my baby girl and it was a girl and I was 9 months already. It
Oh
was
my
all full term
God. Oh,
and passed away. So yeah, and the abuse didn't stop there, which I thought this was going to be different. Maybe if I give him another child, maybe this is going to
mm.
be, totally different. But no, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So
Wow.
that's why I'm like, it's kind of hard to hear a young girl going through that,
Yeah.
and I didn't have any help. I didn't have anybody to
So
help me.
you talk about earlier you talked about your relationship with your mom at home. So it wasn't good at home. So you decided to move
No,
out.
it
Is that
was.
okay?
Exactly. I decided to leave and live with my aunt for a few.
Okay.
I didn't want to come back home. My mom was always unstable. My
Okay.
mom was always moving everywhere. So with her lifestyle and everything, I was just, me being as a young, the only female in the house, because I was the only female in the house. And because of her lifestyle, there was a time point when I was younger that I was molested.
Mm.
So it
Okay.
comes, it's not only their abuse that, it kept on going in
Wow.
my life, that I
Mm-hmm.
know and I could remember. So that's why I didn't want to be with my mom any longer. And I decided to stay. But when I did, I ended up, you know, being placed on a man's hand that was going to end up abusing me,
Right. Well, let me ask you, as a 14-year-old girl, knowing, 14, having, children and grandchildren of your own, at 14-year-old, what were you thinking when, he hit you the first time?
The first thought I thought was, oh my God, what did I do wrong?
Mm.
That's
Okay.
the first thing
Wow. Okay.
I think that I thought about.
Okay.
What did I do wrong? If I did wrong, maybe I deserved it because
Okay.
I did something wrong. So I try to fix it and I try to talk and say, okay, so I didn't do it this time. So why then when the second time came around, okay, so if I did it this time, then, it's a lot of things you question yourself. You think I blame a lot of things on myself because I thought it was me. But
Okay.
then come to realize the abuse, it really wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything. And that's, you're so young, you don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
me not knowing anything, I thought it was okay
Okay.
for that, violence to happen.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you share that you have four children. So
Yeah.
how soon after that did you have more children?
Right after that, the year after, that's when I had my son.
Okay.
Um, he's the oldest. And after I had him, and even during I had him, just the abuse kept on getting even worse. I
Mm.
remember when I started, before I didn't defend it myself, when I
Okay.
had my son, I started defending myself. And when I
Okay.
started defending myself, the abuse got harder because it was more harder and it was so difficult. Sometimes people look at me and I couldn't even get out of the house because of the way my face looked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And
So
this
it
is
was,
all, did it occur in front of your children as well?
it occurred in front of him. They were so little, they don't remember because it
Right.
happened when they were little. So
Okay.
as they were growing up, my son is the most one that witnessed him being abusive.
Okay.
Because the girls, he would try not to do it in front of the girls. He loved his daughters, so he just, had 3 daughters and the only boy. But in front of my son, and he was also abusive towards my son.
Okay.
And there were times that I had to jump in and, try to help, And the funny thing about this is that even though when you go to church, you look for God, you try to, look and be safe, you find it as a safe place to be
Right.
at. Okay, so we serve God, so we're going to be a family, we're going to look for God, and and let's just get out of this and find some help and some healing. Didn't happen that way. He will be in church, go to church, everybody. He was loved by a lot of people.
Wow.
A lot of people loved him and respected him, but behind closed doors, it was totally different with his. And I kept saying to myself, what am I doing wrong? Is there something I'm doing wrong? Because I'm being abused, but then again, you're being, you're giving all your attention and everybody seems to love you and be this man that, that they love and admire, even the family. But I was a person that was so quiet. I would not say anything to my family. I would not say anything to anybody.
Wow.
Just because I thought it was wrong. And if I ever said anything, I will put, it will be worse. The beating will be worse.
Okay.
So I didn't want that for myself.
So it's so interesting that you say that everyone loved him in church, outside. Everybody loved him. He was this great guy, respected, but at home, he was a totally different person. And I think that's people always say, oh my goodness, really him? He would never. I know he never his family. Really? Yeah. He would never. You have no, first of all, so to make that statement that he would never, you can't say, no one can say that because no one's living behind those closed doors. And I think that's important.
Yes, it is. And it was hard. It was hard to see that. I went to church and I couldn't even go because my arm was almost broken because he hit it with a rifle he had. So it was kind of hard. My friend, one of my best friend at church had to come in and she didn't even believe me. And I'm like, I'm not going because, it was Mother's Days. It was a Mother's Day, I remember, and I said, I'm not going because I can barely move my arm and I have to put it in a wrap, and I don't want, people at church thinking, I don't want anybody talking, knowing what he did, because I know they're going to ask me, and I'm not going to lie and say I hit myself with the door or I hit myself, there's no excuse, so I'd rather not go until
Did he go to church with you?
No, he left by himself and left me behind.
So. No, but did he go to church with you sometimes?
Yes, always. He was always at church. He was an evangelist.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. My face tells how I feel. Okay. Wow. I'm so glad you're touching on that because that's a whole nother can of worms right there.
Yes, I know.
Abuse.
It was hard. I mean, it wasn't easy. And then, it was like the image that you have to protect, the image that you have to, portray yourself as the happy wife and the happy woman that you are, supposedly happily married. But it wasn't that way. There was something going wrong.
Yeah, and how many women or pastors' wives or evangelists and ministers' wives or religious leaders' spouses are going through the same thing you went through, but because of their position, people may not believe them or can I even imagine that they'd be doing those kind of things.
And to tell you, it's like you said, it's like a whole can of worms to open up, but I have my own thinking and saying about that. It's like, if you are and you love God and you are in the house of the Lord, you're supposed to, believe in faith and not just because of an image, hide something that you're not. If you're going through it, you should have the strength enough because you have God Almighty on your side and nothing is going to happen. Why protect something like that?
Wow. Let me tell you something. We're going to have you back because we're going to do a whole domestic violence show and religion and faith because it's killing women in the church every day. But because we're so silent, like you said, you have a problem. You're in the house of God. Get some help, but we're going to talk about that and have you back on because I think we need to do a topic just on that. So we'll definitely have to delve back into that a little bit later.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. So you went to church, you covered up the bruises. So how long did this go on for? You have 4 children now, so.
Yes, it went on for years, up until my daughter was 8 years old.
Okay.
And that was when it happened in 2001 that I decided. And I remember calling his mother and telling her, I said, I have had it. I can't take it anymore. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of, protecting and, and being unhappy and being abused by your son. And she wouldn't even believe me. So I called, and that's when the cops came in and called and removed him from my house.
Okay. So
And after that,
let me go back and ask you a couple questions. I'm sorry. So, okay. So
it's
you met
okay.
him at 14, and how old were you when you married him?
I was not 18, 19 years old.
Okay. And how many children did you have at that point?
3. And then
Okay.
during the marriage, I had my last daughter.
Okay. So you're 14, you have 3 children. Are you marrying him because you love him? You're afraid you already have 3 children. You might as well make it a family. What were you thinking at that point?
Okay. At that point, when I left him, I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and I had my 2 oldest, which was my son and my daughter. And at that point, I had to leave him because the abuse was so bad. I left and moved to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And when I went and moved to Puerto Rico, I then came and said, okay, so I'm just going to I'm not going to be with him. I'm not going to be, I want a new life with me and my kids, and I want to be able to protect my kids. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen good. It didn't go good in Puerto Rico. It was hard for me being a single mom over there. So it was Christmas. My mom said, you need to come back. Just come with me. I'll help you. Okay. So I want to say that my mom, even though me and my mom didn't, look eye to eye, like, mother and daughter at the time, but my mom did love my kids, her grandkids, and she always was there, always lifting me up and helping me. So when I came back from Puerto Rico, that's when a turn, that's when he said he was into church, because he was into drugs, he was drinking, he was into drugs and everything. Then he said he was clean, everything, let's start, he convinced me that this was going to be a new life. He's never going to do these things. And of course, me being young, believing, my kids missing him and my kids loving him so much that I said, okay, I'm going to give this one more try. Who else can I do this? I'm going to have my 3rd child. So I wanted to give that chance. And because of it, it almost cost me my life years after.
Okay. So let's talk about that for a second, because there was that point you said, I'm done, I'm leaving. My mom called, I went to stay with her, but then he called, or he came and he said, listen, I'm different. I've changed. I promise you, it'll never happen again. And of course, you want to give it a try. You want to give your family a try. You want to believe him. He's into God, and that is a line. I'm going back to church. I'm not doing drugs anymore. And you believed him. Of course, it makes sense.
Yes. And then and after that, that's when I married him, because everything was going so well. And for a couple of years there, then it was okay, and he was into church, and he did change. But then again, after a couple of years, he started changing. Things started turning around again. Then the abuse started, little by little, started again. And at this point, I already had my 4 kids already grown. I guess it was a thing that I adapted to, that I said, maybe this is okay for me to do.
Wow. Okay. That's a good point. Because still things got good for a little bit. And so you're like, we're going to get married, we're going to be a family, but then slowly the abuse started to come back.
Yes.
Okay.
It did.
So now you end up having, you get married, you have a 4th child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So how was life then? The abuse started. What happened after that?
It was okay, but it was still abuse. It was, like I said, it was still then the verbal abuse. It started with the verbal abuse before it started physical. Okay. So it started again with the verbal abuse and the name calling and the, not treating me like if I was, someone that, he didn't respect it at all. So I wasn't being respected as a mother of your child, and as your, your spouse. You're a person that you're supposed to help and protect, So it didn't happen for me. I was always, it was bad. It was like, for me, I was so unhappy. And that's when I started being unhappy. After I had my 4th child, my last child, she was like around 7 years old when I started to change. Because then it was the time where I grew up more, I knew more, and I was more wiser. And I
Okay.
was like, I'm done. And I was starting to feel like I couldn't do it anymore. I fell out of love with this person. I don't love this person, but he's the father of my kids. I have 4 kids. What am I going to do? So I have, my head was spinning everywhere, like as to how I was feeling. And I was just trying to reach out and look for an exit. What am I going to do? So when I finally did,
Mm-hmm.
it
You said that
almost ended.
you called his mom. And did his mom know
Yes.
about the abuse before this phone call?
No.
Did
She
anybody
knew
know?
about it. Anybody knew when before I had kids. When I had my first child, everybody knew.
Wow.
When I
Okay.
had my second child, that's when everything started being more quiet. I did not open up to anybody. I did not tell my family. I did not tell his family. So the abuse kept on going. I had my kids. Nobody knew.
Why didn't you tell
Nobody
anyone?
knew.
Why
Not
didn't you
even.
tell anyone?
I was scared. I
Okay.
was scared that if I said something, then he would know and find out that I did tell somebody, and the abuse was going to be even worse. Because I was always threatened. If you ever say anything, I will kill you. Those were his words.
Okay.
So it was kind of hard for me to
Yeah,
even
of course.
express and talk to somebody. I didn't have the trust in anybody and telling anybody and keeping it a secret.
Okay. So
Yeah.
question, this is random. Had you
Mhm.
at this point, have you ever heard of anyone else experiencing abuse? Or have you ever heard of a domestic violence hotline? Is that anything that you'd ever heard of at that point?
No, I did not. I was clueless as to, I thought I was the only one going through this, and that I was the one being abused, and I didn't want to be the first one. I never heard about anybody being abused, ever.
You literally
And
kind of felt like that you were in this by yourself.
I was so secluded. Yes, I was so secluded. Like, he would not let me leave the house. He would not let me go anywhere by myself, when the abuse was really happening.
Okay.
After my kids and after we had our kids, yeah, I was able to go out with my kids and, not with him. But at this point, it was kind of different. So it was more like he knew I wasn't going to say anything. I don't know. And it was hard not saying anything to anybody.
Okay.
But I didn't want to include my family or anybody in my business.
Yeah.
So that's the way I've seen it afterwards. Yeah.
So after you called his mom and told him you're leaving, you're done, what happened?
After I told her that, when the cops came and removed him, I put a restraining order. And when I put a restraining order, when he went to court, they told him he needed to go take a domestic violence class, that class, that they need for anger management. He needed to do that. And he knew my mother was coming. And I told him, and I said, I told his family, I says, I'm here, I'm staying in the house. But my family already knew how abusive he was then, and they were scared that something would have happened to me if I stayed in the house. So they wanted me to be, to leave this place. And I said, I had confidence because he loves his kids. I don't think he's ever going to do anything to me because he loves his kids, and I don't think he's going to make them go through, something like that. So I was, I trusted the fact that's okay, I'm safe. But little did I know I was not safe. And that was like, it was like a trigger on him, went on. And even though he had the restraining order, he kept on coming around. I called again and I said, no, you can't be coming around. And when he found out that my mother was in town and that I was leaving, he thought I was coming here to Florida. I was just leaving for the weekend with my kids to see my mom and be with my brother. So that's all I was doing. And that's when he went crazy. And I don't know how it got to him that I was supposedly going to take the kids away. And because of that, he came around and he came up. My daughter was waiting for me in the living room. When my daughter was waiting in the living room, my other 3 kids were downstairs. One of them was waiting for me in the car, and the other ones were just playing outside. And I just said, hold on, honey, I'm going to use the bathroom and I'll be back. Went to use the bathroom. She stayed there. She was watching TV. I didn't hear the door. So my daughter opened up the door, and it was him. And he told her, can you wait for your mother downstairs? I need to talk to your mother. I'll be right there. And of course, this is just an 8-year-old girl. She's not going to know any better. She quickly went downstairs. And that's when he came and saw me in the bathroom and started hitting me with a hammer.
Wow.
And I struggled, which I thought I was going to, I thought I was dead. My mind, when I think it was the adrenaline at that time that kept me up, kept me alive. And as soon as I felt that all this warm, I don't know, all I know, I felt it was hot. I felt it so warm and hot. And that's when he said it. Oh, so if you're not going to be mine, so you're not going to be nobody's, and kept on hitting me. And because of all the blood, I struggled, and he couldn't get a hold of the hammer anymore because it kept on slipping down. At this point, there's blood going down the hallway. I struggle getting out of the bathroom. At this time, I'm butt naked already. I'm sorry, but I was like literally taking everything out because he was grabbing me, and I was trying for him not to grab a hold of me. So once I'm there, he couldn't do it. I don't know where he got the knife from, and that's when the stabbing started. And he started stabbing me, cutting me, and everywhere he got me, I got scars all over. And it was just an inch of just taking my life away, an inch of just taking my life away. And I struggle, and I don't know how I struggle so much. And how did I escape that? I have no idea. I just ran and tried to struggle for my life at that point. And I think at the time that I went running down the hallway to go through the back door because he locked the front door, I could see his face of amazement and how, like, wow, she's still, he didn't kill me. His thing was he was going to kill me, but I was still alive, struggling. And then when I went open to the back door and I went down, I started screaming for help. That's when the next door neighbors came in. I'm there. I just collapsed on the floor. And all I kept thinking was, please take my kids away. Don't let my kids see me this way. Don't let my kids see me this way. So as soon as my son went crazy, I remember seeing my son going crazy. My son was the one that called the cops. He was 14 then. And one of my daughters, which I didn't know, she came from downstairs running, and I just learned this year. I just learned because me and my kids, we never talked about that day. I didn't want to put them through the pain and the emotions about it, because I know they went through their struggles.
Yeah.
And it hurted them so much that we've never talked about it. When we finally sat down and talked about it one day, this year, one of my daughters told me, Mom, I was the one holding your head at that time. I'm like, oh my God, I was so amazed. She made me shook up. And I was like, what? I said, everybody take my kids away. Why didn't anybody took you away? Because I was the only one holding your head steady. And it was hard. It was hard to hear that. But
how old was she at the time?
She was only, I want to say my youngest was 8, so she was 10 years old, just about 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was, I was taken away, and my kids almost got taken away. That's when everybody heard, my family, my brother, my mom. My brother didn't want my mother to find out, and she was there at his house waiting for me because we were supposed to meet that day.
Right.
And mother was getting nervous, like what's going on, what's taking her so long, and why did my son leave? And she was with my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law knew what was going on, but she didn't want to tell my mother because my mother, she's sick, she gets epilepsies, and she didn't want to break her heart and knowing what was going on. So she didn't know what to tell her. Oh, he's coming back, he just went to the store, or she went there. And she's like, no, something's going on. So because my daughter was taken away when he left me for dead, he took the car and he took my daughter. When my daughter saw him full of blood, she started screaming, let me go, let me go. And he had to stop the car, let her go, because if not, he would have taken my daughter with him.
Oh my God.
So he let her go. She ran. She was the last one to come up. And at this point, my mom's like, it's getting late. He's not here. Something is going wrong. Because he fled the scene and he left, cops were sent to my brother's house and my family house. They needed to put them in a safe place because he threatened my family. he said, I'm getting every single, he said he was going to kill my family
Oh
and
my
your next, and they, in
gosh.
your next, and your mother's next, and your brother, everybody. So the cops had to literally grab and go. And when they went and my mom saw the cops there, they had to give her something because she just couldn't believe it. She started screaming and crying, and they had to place them into hotels because he fled the scene and they were afraid that he was going to
Yeah.
come back for them. So I was in the hospital. They even had to change my name in the hospital. So if he came to the hospital and nobody knows, he knew my name and he was going to find me by my name. So cops were taking care of everything and looking and searching. They would not let me go from the hospital until he was found.
Wow. How long
And they
did
did. They
you find
found.
them? The same day?
It took 3 days. It took them 3 days. Yeah, and I was in the hospital since, I want to say it was evening. It was just, I arrived at the hospital somewhere around 7:30, and they didn't finish stitching me up everywhere until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
That was specialists from head, hands, feet to
Mm.
every single one of them. Yeah. So I was lucky, and every doctor that were amazed that I even survived uh such a tragic event that happened. They really thought I wasn't, shouldn't be where I'm at right now, and I was lucky enough that everywhere, even the doctors, every single one of them, every vein that he grabbed, it was to an inch of killing me.
Mm.
Yeah. So it was hard, but hey, I thank God. And I say, God, it was not my time. I just thank God. It was hard afterwards to pick up the pieces and, being a single mom of four and how to,
Yeah.
it was hard. It was a
Wow.
journey.
Wow. I think I'm speechless. I'm thankful for your life. I thank God that God kept you because honestly, I mean, just the thought of your son having to call the police and your daughter holding your head, and the hammer and then finding a knife and still be, attacking you. It's just, and as children,
Yes.
it's just so much, but God has a plan for you because you are still here
Yes.
for all those kids,
Yes.
grandkids. Oh my,
Yes.
they needed you. So wow, I don't know. I don't know what to say. And little things like them changing your name in the hospital, big deal.
Yes.
Still was able to keep you safe. Being able to fight for your life, taking off your clothes smart so he wasn't able to grab you. It's just like you're amazing. But
Yes. Thank you.
so I'm like all kind of like I get it together, Lisa. Okay. So what happened after this? Was he put in jail?
Yes, he was. Once he was found, that third day, they found him in an abandoned buildings,
Okay.
in the van. So at this point, that New York authorities were alerted, everywhere, every town near, because it was in Connecticut up north. They were just looking for him, and for them, for him to escape, it was going to be tough for him to leave. So I guess he stayed around, and they found him, and they took him in. Once they took him in, the journey, it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there because even him taken in, he pleaded not guilty, which the first judge offered him 13 years in jail. You make whatever, and within 8 years you were going to be out and, serve 8 years. That's all.
Wow.
And I wasn't going to push the issue because, of course, physically I wasn't, okay. And emotionally, I was not right.
Yeah.
And I was just, trying to get it together because I have my kids to worry about. Then after a couple, I think a couple of months later, when they were trying to prosecute him, his family got a lawyer. Mind you, I didn't get a lawyer. His family got him a lawyer.
Hmm.
And at this point, this lawyer advised him, that he should just take things to court.
Hmm.
I'm like, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, I know I'm not a lawyer and I don't know the law, but I do know that, why are you taking the person that you almost took her life to court?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you just take the years that they were
Yeah.
given to you? And he had to go overseas and get another judge to do this. And that's when I had nothing, no lawyer or nothing. And I remember this prosecutor, the state attorney, the
Mm-hmm.
ones that help you in court, they provide you at the court, and it was a female, and she was so ready to help me with this case. And I brought her pictures because pictures were taking all over. I mean, my family took pictures of everything that happened, and I provided this to her, and she was so, like, she was upset, and she was so livid that she wanted to help me with the case.
Wow.
I said, that he took you to court? Yes. The reason why he did and took that route was because, one, if he would have set another date for to go to court and I would have missed court date and I didn't want to be part of it, then he would have just easily walked out.
Wow.
Yes. That was the case.
That's
If I didn't
crazy.
show up. Mm-hmm. And basically I don't know where I found the strength, and I'm like, no, even if I have to face this man in court, I'm gonna be there. And I don't know what strength came over me that I said, I'm pushing this forward now, because now, you know, I'm gonna get you with everything. So yeah, it happened, and we went to court, and I remember the judge, when the judge first time, and his lawyer, he was literally trying to ask me questions that I defended myself so well that I don't even know how I defended myself
Wow.
in court whenever that his lawyer was pounding me with questions and things that had made no sense. And the one that was representing me, she was like, you are so awesome. You answer those questions. You make them look like a fool in there. And I'm like, well, I don't know how I did it, but
Yeah, you
it's just
found
the
it.
truth. It's just
Yeah.
common sense. Why would you be defending? Why would you be asking me questions? It's like, you know, so how long were you struggling in the bathroom?
Oh
Or,
my
you know, do
goodness.
you remember, you know? And I'm like, how will you ask me that when I can't, you know, I can't stop and tell him, stop hitting me and let me see the time it is. I don't know what time it was. I don't know. I was being I was being hit everywhere with a hammer in my head, and you expect me to know the time.
Jesus.
So yeah, it was a roller coaster. And then at the end that day, I remember the judge telling him, and I said, he's told him, I know, you know, you had a ruling, you had a judge that gave you a sentencing, and you didn't took it, and you decided to go around the system and work on and went this way. And he said, okay, so set up to see another judge. So now we're going to see the third judge, and that was going to be the sentencing judge. And even that judge said it. And he says, I can't believe you actually, after putting her through what you put her through,
Right.
you're going to let her sit here and try to defend herself over why? Because you were jealous, because you were what? You heard things, and, you know, things that are not concrete, not true, that you can provide a proof of, and you did this. And I think this is the cowardly way. So they hit him with a lot of years. So he just, since 2001 until 2019, he just came out. So he
Wow.
made basically almost 20 years, and he was
Wow.
still on probation.
Wow.
So
And at
yeah,
this
it was
point,
hard.
I mean, I know we always talk about how you feel safe and things like that before we have
Yes.
anybody on, but you do feel safe and things like that.
Yes, I do.
Now.
I do. Definitely. Definitely, I do. Even though he came out and we went through a struggle, because this happened this year. When he came out, of course, right now, none of my kids want anything to do with him. But before this event that happened this year, my daughter was keeping contact with him. She went to visit him and saw him after he came out. She went up there, and something happened over there. He got into jail and things like that. My daughter was hurt by it very well. I'd rather not say,
Of
but,
course.
you know, things that he did, but, you know, they were hurt by. And then after that, I don't know what happened with him. He decided to leave a voicemail, call one of my daughters, and leave a threatening voice message on my daughter. And that's when I took actions this year. And I felt that all those emotions come back. It's like you're scared because, oh no, you're not going to do this second time
Right,
around.
right.
This second time around, I'm ready for you, and
Yeah,
you're not gonna disturb my peace that I built
yeah.
so hard
For
for.
20
You're
years.
not gonna make
Yes.
Yes, you're not gonna make me feel afraid anymore after I overcome all this. So I called, and I called his probation officer, made a complaint, everything, and now he cannot even make a phone call to none of my kids. So he
Okay.
lost all that privilege.
Okay.
And now my kids don't. So we have no contact with him
Okay.
whatsoever. My kids.
Wow. Yeah, 20 years is a long time. 20 years,
Oh yeah.
you've done your healing, you've done your work, you've processed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're strong. You said earlier how important it was to heal completely. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Talk about that. Okay. Healing completely. I want to say that if God was not in my life and my number one, I would not be healing completely. So I want to thank God because he's the one. I mean, because of him, my healing process was, it took a long time,
Yeah.
but I did it. And it was me feeling scared of everything. And I was feeling scared of being alone, scared of being, because I was always, it was like anxiety. I had anxiety, I had depression, I went through all those emotions.
Yeah.
And to be able to, say, that's it, I'm done. And not only that, after that, after I moved in 2004, I met this man, which I was with him for 13 years, which is my ex-husband. I divorced him 4 years ago. During that 13 years, it was not physical abuse, but it was verbally abuse and controlling. And I fell into that again. So that's, in my life, as I was thinking and going through it, and I found myself in a place where I'm like, I don't belong here. What am I doing here? Why am I doing this to myself? And it's because sometimes us as women, we feel like we're nothing, or we're not, you don't value yourself enough. You don't think about yourself, that you're your happiness. You're the one that has to come out and be happy, not accept and be in a relationship that you're not happy, and why fall into the same abuse. So I decided to get myself together 4 years ago and say stop. And I've been the best woman I've ever been since then. And I am telling you, if I would have known what I know now then, story would have changed a long, totally different.
Yeah, it's so funny. I say that all the time. If I knew that I could have lived like this and not lived like that, I would have left that a long time ago. What was I thinking?
Yes.
And it's so funny because I hope that people hear it and say, wait, you mean there's life on the other side of that? Then I can live that now,
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And that's why a lot of women feel, and when they're in this violence relationship, they think that there's nothing and there's no help. There is help, and there is a way out. And it takes you. That's all it takes, just you to do it.
And I love that you said that it's not easy. You didn't make it. It's not easy. It's hard. It's lonely. It hurts, but it's still possible.
It is.
Yeah. I have a few questions about some stuff that I want to just ask you based on what you shared. So first thing, what would you say to a 14-year-old girl or a teenager or someone who's experiencing what you did at that age? Pregnant, doesn't know what to do, not pregnant, but experiencing abuse at that age.
At that age, I would tell her, even though you don't know, that you're not alone. Whether you think your family, because I know a lot of families don't, they kind of forget you. Oh no, she left, she did something wrong, or she's in this relationship and she doesn't want to listen. I understand that side also. I would tell her, don't ever feel like you're alone. Don't ever feel like there's no help out there. Love yourself enough to not even think about letting a man, your boyfriend or your little friend, to even put a hands on you or even make you feel or do things that is wrong, and for you to accept it. Do not do that. You will know that man, that person, that boy, it doesn't love you and doesn't care about you. You need to learn how to love yourself and care for you in order to move on and find the right person. And it's not that one. So many things that I can say.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's really good. And so I just want to touch on this real quick. I don't know if you have any comments, but you talked about getting the restraining order and he continuously violated it. And
Yes, he did.
so, did you report their violations when he violated it?
Yes, and then after that, after the court and of course I reported it, but it was still a restraining order. You know, they
Piece of
kept putting
paper.
that restraining order to last a year, to last another, and
Yeah.
then finally, when the thing happened, I'm like, you know, I feel like the system failed me at it,
Okay.
but then again, they finally put a permanent one where he's not allowed to be around where I'm at,
So you
or
have
you
that in
know,
place now?
oh yeah,
Okay.
that's the permanent thing.
So the violent restraining order, because a lot of people, as you know, they either drop the restraining order, they don't follow through with it. So I think
Yeah,
you made a really good point of following up with the restraining order and how
because women
important that
feel,
is.
yeah, a woman feel like they scared, and they feel threatened, and they don't want, you know, I guess they're scared, so they want to go ahead and drop it so he
Mhm.
won't, you know. And that's the biggest mistake you could ever make. Never drop those charges, because this is why he was going to be free walking out. If I got scared and I would have dropped everything, he would have walked out free.
Wow. But he
Yeah.
violated, he had the
So
restraining order in place.
yes, he got hit with a lot of things, with
Wow.
kidnapping first degree, burglary at first degree, everything. He
Okay.
got hit with
Okay.
everything.
Okay. And
Yes.
of course, you know, we're gonna have to talk about another day the how you feel about the court system. Well, you had a restraining order, but
Hmm.
we're still attacked, even though
Yeah.
you had that piece of paper intact. So we know it's a piece of paper, and it
Yes.
helped with the sentencing.
Hmm.
But that's definitely, yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that one too.
Yes.
Oh, last but not least, I think this is one of the questions that I had too. Is and I think this is so important. You stated that you were like, oh, he wouldn't hurt me because I'm the mother of his children and he loves his children too much. He wouldn't do this. And I always tell people, say if they make threats, believe their threats. Oh, I'm going to kill you and your family. Believe them. Take those things so seriously.
Seriously.
Don't
Mhm.
minimize them. Oh, he would never. He would never. So
Yes.
when you said that in your story, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to talk about this a little bit more. So
Yes.
you really thought that he wouldn't hurt you because of who you
Yes, exactly. In my mind, I thought, oh, he would never dare. And even my family and friends that would ask me, and you're still there? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stay there. Where else am I going to go with my 4 kids? I have a place, I have a job, I have a good job. You know, I can support my kids. I can't do this, you know, but they were like, but your life, you need to be careful. He's coming around. He has broken. And I said, yeah, I know, but I think it's because he loved my excuse, or my mentality then was like, oh, he loves his kids so much, you know, that's why he's coming around. Or, you know, that's what I kept telling myself.
right.
And I said, you know, I don't believe he's going to do this. I don't believe he's going to be, you know, this person that's going to do something because he has his kids and he's going to respect that. No, there's no respect for them. They have no, once they say they're going to do it, they don't care no matter what. And I learned that the hard way. And
Wow.
believe me, yes.
No
It
boundaries.
was
They just at that
no,
point they're like
yeah,
nothing to lose. And you
yeah.
know, when you it's like he comes to the door, he tells your daughter, go downstairs and wait for mommy for a second, knowing intentionally what he came to do. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's just
Yes.
that it's like he came on a mission to do something.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad you said that you said if they say they're gonna do it, believe them.
Exactly. Believe them, because ain't no way. They're not going to respect nobody. If they haven't respected you, what makes you think they're going to respect
Yeah.
your kids or anybody else?
And did you believe the threats about your family? Obviously the cops did
Oh,
because they
yes.
hid your family. So
Yes.
you believe okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. I did believe it. I did believe
Okay.
it.
All right, well, we are almost finished here, but Maria, I just want to thank you so much for sharing. You are bold and brave and beautiful and a hero
Thank
to
you.
your children and to your grandchildren. And I just thank God for your
Yes.
life, that you're still here to share your story. And you
Yes.
have so many different facets of domestic violence and abuse and the cycle of it, that your story can touch so many different people in so many different ways.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so is there anything you'd like to say just in the last few minutes to share with anybody who's watching you today?
Yes, I would say, please love yourself enough as a woman. Love yourself enough and believe in yourself. You're not alone. You can overcome whatever it is, obstacle, and look for help, because you're not alone.
Mhm. Yay.
That's
Thank you so much. I just love this.
You're welcome.
So good. God
Yes.
bless you and your family and your
Thank you.
grandchildren. Happy Thanksgiving.
You
And
too.
we'll
Thank
talk
you.
again soon, Maria. Thank you.
You're welcome.